Hello there, everybody. We have finally summer here. We have had 2 pretty hot days, and it will be, from what I've heard, a very hot day tomorrow as well, Sunday as well. So I have finally gotten in my shorts and t-shirt, and finally I can celebrate summer. The students have been walking out today, so that is my proof that it is summer. And still a lot of threads on the vinyl community, and it's becoming more and more and more. And there are a lot that I will do. I'm going to do a response also to James Griffith's first record tag, about first stuff we bought. But this time I'm going to do another response to I think it is B-Side Records that started this about soundtracks. I don't have that big pile of soundtracks. I want to have more, but I also want to have with movies that I've seen, and many of them haven't. Either they haven't been releasing as real soundtrack, or it's hard to find them. And I also have been culling some soundtracks for the past years, soundtracks that are more or less looks like a greatest hits, with the songs that I already have on single or the band's original album or something like that. I don't need a compilation with songs that I already have, even if it is from a soundtrack. I want soundtracks with a special composed song for that movie. But I think I managed to find a pretty good stack of records to show. And the first question was first bought soundtrack. That one was pretty tough because I don't remember, but I think it is an album that I can't show because I don't have it anymore. It's one of those that I've called away, and it is a soundtrack for a movie that I haven't seen. Perfect, with John Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis from 1995. I think I bought it somewhere down 1995 because of the 80s songs, but also a lot of songs that I already had. So I decided that the movie that I haven't seen with songs that I already have, I had no use for when I want to make space for other records. The newest bought soundtrack I showed in my latest vinyl CD update. It is this soundtrack from the movie MASH. I bought it because Johnny Mandel had made the soundtrack. I haven't listened to it yet, and I was a little bit doubtful that it was. It seemed to be a lot of dialogue in it, and a dialogue from a movie that I haven't seen sounds pretty uninteresting then, because I want the music more. So let's hear what it is. Let's give it a chance. The soundtrack I've listened to the most, I think it should be Star Wars. I really love this. John Williams' masterpiece. Fantastic mood, fantastic production, fantastic played. It is, you never know what's going to happen next in this one. So it's amazing, legendary soundtrack. This is the first who really is the fourth, and it is called Star Wars, but nowadays A New Hope. It was easier when it was called Star Wars and it was 3 movies. You didn't have to actually be searching through your head through millions of Star Wars movies that have been coming out since then. Favorite composer? Well, as I collect a whole lot of James Bond, I love James Bond soundtracks. My favorite composer, of course, is John Barry. And this is a compilation that I found with John Barry themes. Instrumental score. I was thinking of Star Wars, that jazz theme, but I found someone that was actually has been a favorite of mine since I was a kid and heard it the first time back in 1985. As a new pop nerd, I heard the first time then Fletch theme by Harold Faltermeyer from the movie Fletch, and I really love that one. I like Harold Faltermeyer's Axel F also, but I think this one is very, very underrated. Very, very more exciting and special theme, but I like that instrumental theme from Fletch very, very much. An awesome movie with a horrible soundtrack, and that one I think was the hardest. I nearly gave up on that because if it is a horrible soundtrack, then I most likely don't have it, because then I've already shipped it away. And I haven't been. I can't remember a horrible soundtrack, so I'm going to take one that I don't have heard, but and I don't have the soundtrack, just to say something instead of just not showing anything. I say Spider-Man 2 because it is a great movie. I love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movies. I think it's latest great Superman movies, superhero movies, before it became way too many. However, the soundtrack contains a whole lot of these new metal stuff like Nickelback and so on that I really don't like. So just to say something, I say Spider-Man 2 in that case. Swifter around, an awesome soundtrack to a horrible movie. And then I say this, Clockwork Orange. I just love this electric classical music and the time steps as a fantastic unpredictable song, that instrumental theme that you never know what's going to happen. But the movie itself is way too over the top for me. I have hard time. I think I've seen it once and I never want to see it again, because it was way too much for me. I think I didn't understand one thing about that movie. It's not my style. I think it is that. Favorite band on soundtrack. My favorite band, of course, as everybody knows, is Depeche Mode. And I don't have a soundtrack that Depeche Mode is featured on. There are very few of those. So I picked another favorite band. As everybody know, I have made a video where I show my Duran Duran collection. Duran Duran is one of my favorite bands, and I made it easy for myself then. A View to a Kill, and Duran Duran's main title song, classic from 1985. So one of my James Bond soundtracks that I love very, very much. And we have a soundtrack that everyone should own. And I picked this one, also another one that I haven't seen the movie from. But when I heard this soundtrack, I was stunned how great it was. And it's Johnny Mandel's jazz score from I Want to Live, about a prostitute that gets accused for murder, I think, and sentenced to death, starring Susan Hayward. But this soundtrack, with a whole lot of jazz musicians with Jerry Mulligan and a whole lot. Shaliman is so magnificent. A magnificent big band soundtrack, very laid back, and not always those typical big band sounds, but also some experimental, but it's also very, very exciting and very, very magnificent soundtrack that you want to listen from start to beginning to know where this soundtrack is going to lead you. You don't need to see the movie to love this one, because I haven't. So my recommendation is I Want to Live, Johnny Mandel's great jazz score. And a soundtrack grail, something that I want. I want more James Bond soundtracks, those I don't have. But it's also a soundtrack from a movie that I also haven't seen, but that I heard a lot of songs from in a jazz show when I was younger, in the late 80s. And it is a soundtrack from a movie called Alfie. It is a soundtrack with Sonny Rollins playing. And that one I hope to get a hold of one day. It's, from what I understand, a very short soundtrack, unfortunately, but it contains a whole lot of great jazz. So that was my thread response of soundtracks. So I will be back very soon with another response. So until then, take care everybody and enjoy these wonderful summer days. See ya!